Working out and strength training is an absolutely essential part of what we have to do in order to not only be healthy now, but also be healthy going on into the future. And the deadlift is one of the foundational movements that we have to be able to do. Whether we are deadlifting in the gym or we're bending forwards to pick up our kids or picking up the groceries, chances are that we're deadlifting every day. However, the downside of a deadlift is that it actually predisposes us to low back pain or low back injury. And oftentimes this happens due to picking something up with poor form. If we are bending forward to perform that deadlift or pick up an item, we can oftentimes round out our lower back, which again can predispose us to a low back injury. And most commonly, this can predispose us to an injury of our intervertebral discs. If we look at our spine, these big white segments here are called vertebrae, and this clear disc in between those vertebrae are called intervertebral discs. Now, if we look at the diagram on the whiteboard here, we can see the same thing. We have a vertebrae here, and in between them, an intervertebral disc. If we look at the top-down view of that intervertebral disc, they have two parts. This outer part here is called the annulus fibrosus, and the inner part here is called the nucleus pulposus. Now, the annulus fibrosus is very fibrous. It gives the disc the majority of its structure and shape. The nucleus pulposus is very gelatinous. It's kind of like the jelly of a jelly donut. Because it's so gelatinous, as we move around through daily life, this stuff will kind of squish and move around with us. So if you're bending forwards, and maybe bending forwards with not the best form, we are squishing the front of that jelly donut, and we are pushing that fluid backwards. We are also simultaneously increasing the pressure of that disc, pushing the fluid up into the vertebrae above it. Now, if we increase that pressure enough by lifting something up with really poor form, with a lot of force, say we're really trying to rep out a 1 rep max on deadlift, or repetitively picking up smaller items, it can start to cause some damage to the fibers that connect that intervertebral disc to the vertebrae above it. And again, if we do this enough, it can actually cause a popping sound in our lower back. This isn't a fracture, and this isn't a massive herniation. Is actually called a Schmorl's node, where this pressure will increase so much that will cause the fluid to cause a little bubble into that bone. Once those fibers become damaged, it can ultimately result in some damage to the fibers of the disc like this. Then if we continue to bend forwards or perform a deadlift with, again, not that best form, squishing the front of that jelly donut, that fluid is going to go into those damaged fibers, which will then cause pain and inflammation. Now, inflammation, although technically is a good thing because that's how our body heals, it's also by nature very chemically irritating. And this inflammation can be enough to irritate the nerves leaving our spine, causing pain not only directly in the middle of our lower back, but it can then radiate across our hips, into our glutes, or down into our legs. So this month, we're going to make sure that you can get some tips and tricks in order to deadlift properly and correctly for your body type so that you don't injure yourself like this.